So, right now, we're talking about tools that we use in the field 3, discipleship. How are we teaching people to grow in their relationship with Jesus? And one of the central tools that we use is something called the sword method. So what it is it's just an inductive set of Bible study questions where we can be rooted in God's Word, learning from God's Word, and being propelled outward with God's Word. So there are 4 central questions, and we can remember them easily based on where they appear on this picture of the sword. So the first question that we're going to ask, because the tip of the sword is going to point up if you're holding it out, is what is this passage telling us about God? Do we see God doing something specific in this passage? Do we see someone talking about God's character? What is this passage trying to communicate to us about God? The second question that we're going to ask, because if you're holding this sword out, your hand will be on the handle, a man will be holding it, is what does this passage tell us about man? Do we see man doing something specific in this passage? Is God or someone else talking about man's nature or about man's character? So that's the second question. The third question we're going to ask is because you're holding out the sword, right? The blade, or one of the blades, is pointed inwards at you. Is how is this passage telling us about sin that we need to avoid, or promises that we need to cling to? Because it's pointed inwards at us, we're examining ourselves. We're searching our hearts to see what it is that needs to change or that we need to cling to. And then the fourth question, because we see that the other blade is pointing outwards, how is the word propelling us? So, that fourth question is going to be, is there a command to obey or an example to follow? Is God telling us to do something specific? Or is this story talking about someone who's clearly obeying God and we need to emulate? And so that is the fourth question, right? Each of these questions are very simple. And because they're simple, they need to have simple answers also. And so imagine, usually when I teach this to people, I'll write it on a 3x5 card. So every time we read in the passage, we want to be writing down what we're learning, writing down where we find it in the passage and what exactly it is. And so, for example, if we were reading through Luke chapter 19, we see in verse 10 of Luke 19 that Jesus says that he has come to seek and save the lost. Right? And so this way we're not only logging what it is that we're learning here so that we can remember it in the future, but we're ensuring that we're rooted in this passage of the Bible that we're turning to. And so this is the sword method.